Hey friends, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be starting on a reading vlog that's just kind of like a spontaneous reading vlog. It wasn't really planned, but I've been in such a reading mood for the month of October. Like, I've just been back on my game when it comes to reading, and so in this vlog I'm going to be reading 5 random kind of like thriller, mystery, or horror books, or even some romance books that I've been interested in checking out recently. Black River Orchard by Chuck Wendig is one of the books that I read during this video, and mostly because I just wanted to vlog my experience reading this massive book. I also end up reading Mr. Magic as well as Knight's Edge. I ended up getting Knight's Edge from my library after I did the tri-chapter video with my sister, and then I was so curious about this one, so I just had to. And then I also do read some romance books that I've been highly anticipating, like Stars in Your Eyes, which is maybe my most anticipated romance for like the second half of this year. And then I also recently got My Roommate is a Vampire in the mail thanks to Amy, and so I decided this would be the perfect October read because, you know, romance, vampires, sounds like a good time, so I read both of these in this vlog as well. So yeah, let me send you back to very earlier this month when I started on Black River Orchard. Hello, what's up? It's a Saturday afternoon. I actually just finished doing the booktube live show for the month of September with Ashley and Marcy, and it was a really fun time. But I wanted to do a quick update because I have been reading Black River Orchard for like the last 2 days now. And I wanted to update because I am nearly halfway through. Last night when I was reading it, I just hit page 300. Like, I'm on page 308 now. And this book is massive. It's about 620 pages. You know, this wasn't really originally on my TBR for the month of October, so I wanted to like get as early of a start on this book as I could. And so I've been reading it over the last 2 days, and it's so wild because I'm actually reading this book with my eyeballs. I'm reading it without the help of the audiobook. I feel like lately I've just been relying on the audiobook so much to like help me get through books that I was like, am I even capable of like reading a 600-page book without the help of the audiobook? Because, you know, the squirrel brain is real these days. You know, like my anxiety and my lack of being able to focus is a real issue. But I am happy to report that I am still perfectly capable of reading a book without the help of the audiobook because I've read 300 pages in 2 days, which is pretty awesome. We're just following a bunch of these different characters who live in this small town where there are these apple trees. So one of the point of views that we're following in this book is this young teenage girl named Kala, and she has this dad named Dan who he is like running one of the orchards where they have these apple trees. And then we also follow this lesbian couple. We follow these 2 different women who are moving to this small town where these orchards are. And in this small town, there seems to be, you know, something going on with the apples in this town. You know, I never really found apples in particular very creepy before reading this book. I mean, I guess with things like, you know, like Snow White or even with like Adam and Eve, you know, there's been these stories about apples and like temptation and like different things like that. But particularly the apples in this book have been pretty creepy. I think Chuck Wendig is a really great writer in the way that he's able to describe the people eating these apples in the most like creepy and disturbing way. The way he talks about the crunching and the popping of like the apple skin and the it's just very descriptive, you know. Like, I think he does a good job at making something that's just like an everyday normal thing seem so creepy and disgusting. It's like the people who are eating these apples, it's almost like they're becoming like brainwashed in a way, but it's also supposedly like improving their life in some ways. And it's really interesting what these apples seem to be doing to these characters because, you know, there are some characters in this book who are like, I don't eat apples, or they're like, I'm allergic to apples. So they're kind of watching as these other characters who are eating the apples are changing in a way. And it's almost like once they've had an apple, they like need to have another. They can't get enough of them. And it's also like changing their bodies and their like minds and their moods. And in some ways it's like a positive thing, you know, because these apples are making these people like stronger, or like people who used to like require glasses, now they have like 20/20 vision and they have like perfect vision. They can see now. It's like really creepy and like weird stuff like that. It's almost reminding me of the book Up upgrade by Blake Crouch in that way. Like the apples are literally upgrading these people in their physical bodies, but it's also making them like brainwashed in a way that's making them like very cruel and very like toxic in a way that they not are usually like that. And that's really scary to see, you know, like I think the idea of something being able to like brainwash you and control you, I think that's absolutely terrifying. And there have been a few scenes, I've tabbed the few scenes so far that I thought were really like creepy and kind of well done. I don't know, it's just been kind of like eerie so far. Like nothing has been too genuinely like scary for me, because I did have a night the other night where I actually stayed up kind of late reading this into the night, which is something I haven't done in so long. Like I used to be a night reader, like primarily I used to read my horror books at night, but I haven't been reading at night as often, and I really missed it because there's something about reading horror books like late into the night that is just so fun. But yeah, so far it's going well. I'm invested in the characters. Do I think this book needs to be 600 pages long? No, I don't. I rarely ever think that a book needs to be this long, but at the same time, I'm enjoying it so far. I just think it is a little bit long and it's a little bit wordy. Like we're reaching a point in the middle of the story now where I'm just ready for things to really pick up, because it still feels like it's that kind of like slow burn, kind of eerie, creepy atmosphere, but I'm ready for things to get like really intense, you know, like I'm gonna need it to go there very soon. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I was planning on reading a little bit more of this afternoon because I don't have any plans this afternoon. Sorry if you can hear the Frenchie snoring in the background, but he's laying in like the one little patch of light that I have on the floor, and so he's you know, just having the best day. But I was gonna originally go over to my parents' house for dinner tonight, but my mom is still sick, which is so frustrating and sad, you know, because my mom has been sick for a couple of weeks now, and I'm still not feeling like 100%. Like I'm doing a lot better, but I still sound sick, you know, and I still have like my GERD issues acting up, and I'm still not 100% either, which is just very annoying. So we decided we're not going to be doing dinner tonight. So instead, I kind of have like the rest of the day to just do whatever. So I decided that I think I'm going to try to make a serious dent in Black River Orchard today. I don't know if it's realistic for me to finish this or not today, especially because I have more than 300 pages left and I am reading it with my eyes. And I think I'm going to head out of the apartment right now. I might just swing by a coffee shop to get like a scone or some kind of like, you know, treat, because since my GERD is acting up right now, I can't really have coffee, and it is truly unfortunate. But I might just sit in my car and read for a little bit. Hello, it's like 5:15 at night right now, but I wanted to update you because I just hit page 500! Like, I'm actually probably going to finish this today. How exciting is that? I did end up going to the park, and I was reading a little bit earlier, but oh my gosh, I couldn't even get out of my car because it was like a soccer game day, you know? It was one of those soccer game days where there was like every single family that lives in our town was at that park. It was very crowded. There was lots of people everywhere, so I just decided to stay in my car, and like, quick little story time, because I was just sitting in my car, minding my own business. I had my windows like partially cracked open, you know, on both sides of my car, and I could have sworn, you know, I had my backpack on the passenger seat sitting next to me, and I could have sworn I heard a like thud, like the sound of something falling, and I was like, what was that? And I was like looking around, I was like looking on my backpack, I didn't see anything, so I was like, okay, whatever. A minute later, I look over at my backpack and I see the biggest bug, like the creepiest little beetle flying thing just crawling around in my backpack, and I was like, oh my god, I think it like flew or fell into my car, and I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? So I literally just rolled down the passenger window and like dangled my backpack out of the window and like shook my backpack until the thing just like flew off. But like, oh my gosh, it scared the shit out of me because I thought I heard something, but then I didn't see it, and the fact that it was still there somehow, disgusting. I hate to think about it. But anyways, I'm 500 pages into this book, and I am really starting to enjoy this now. I feel like for me, this book took about 400 pages before it really started to pick up with like the horror elements of the story, because I feel like for the first, 400 pages, I feel like this book has a really great atmosphere, it has really interesting characters, but the horror itself is just more like subtle, or like things are just kind of subtly happening that are creepy, but there's nothing that's like in your face creepiness or like on page, creepy ass scenes. And now ever since page 400, I feel like things have really picked up in these last 100 pages and like shit's really starting to hit the fan. So I'm really starting to enjoy it now, even though I do still think this book is just too damn long. I think it's too freaking long. Like, some of the choices in this book I understand and I think they are necessary. Like, I do like the way that this book is broken down into different sections based off of what month we're in. And right now I'm all the way in like the month of April or something. Like, it's been a whole ass year basically. But something that I'm not loving about the writing is the fact that there's so many like interludes in between some of the parts. We have this first interlude that's the farm cat's tale, which is like a random perspective from a cat, which I just thought was like completely unnecessary and just kind of too long. And then we have this interlude, the despondent father's tale. We have this interlude, the IRS man's tale. And it's like all of these interludes that are in between some of the parts are from the point of view of like random characters that live in the town, and they just don't really feel necessary. I mean, granted, most of the interludes are only like maybe 10 pages long at most, so like they're not really long, but I still don't think they're necessary, and there's just so many of them. Like right when I just hit page 500, I just hit another interlude, the Golden Man's Tale Part 3 interlude, and it takes place in 1903, and like I don't give a fuck. But I'm really starting to like some of the horror scenes that I've been reading recently. Like, things are really picking up, and I'm like, ooh. Oh my gosh, speaking of which, random, side note is that this afternoon, Rachel and Obed were out apple picking. They were out apple picking, right? Because it's like a cool fall activity to do in Washington because we have a lot of apple trees. But I just thought it was so ironic that while I'm literally reading this book, like the majority of this book that I'm reading today, and then they choose today to go apple picking, because now I'm like looking at apples like, do I really want to eat that? This book got me afraid to eat apples. Just to give you a taste of the writing, this was a quote that I really enjoyed. He said, "Violence was like a parasite. It sat within you, curled up like a worm in the meat, waiting to lay its eggs, its brood born." Isn't that just so like visual? I think right now I'm probably going to try to make dinner. I think I might just like heat up the leftovers of what I made last night. And then honestly later tonight, like I am so tempted to go to Dairy Queen. I've been talking about going to Dairy Queen and getting a Blizzard for like a few days now. So I'm like, I need to actually do it.
So these are Honey Crisp. Obviously they're big boys.
They're so big.
They are bigger than my hand.
Oh my god.
And then these are Fuji apples. These are called Prince.
Prince?
Yeah, just Prince. I left my map in the car, and we're not sure which one is the. There was only one left. They were called like a Japanese apple. It's really hard to pronounce. It's like TSU Sular. Anyways, yeah. So I don't know which one. Dude, they were literally all on the ground. This is the only one I found on the tree.
Oh.
Like only one, so.
The heck, it's a special one.
Yeah.
She's a little lopsided, but she's still cute.
Yeah.
Wow, so many apples.
This was $20.
$20 worth of
to
apples.
Pick from the farm.
Fresh off the farm, fresh.
And I grabbed this one thinking it looked fantastic, and then it's a little yellow. But she's alright. I think this one's just so perfect. I don't know why. Just the size of it and like.
It's very, yeah, these are huge.
Yeah.
Oh my god. is almost 10 o'clock at night, but I have exciting news because I have finished Black River Orchard, and I did end up having a good rest of my night. You know, I ended up watching Big Brother with my sister, and then I did get a blizzard. I get the cookie dough blizzard. Like, that is my absolute go-to favorite, so you'll have to let me know what your favorite blizzard flavor is. They have a ton of new ones too right now for the fall season, and they all look so good. Like, I was so tempted to try something new. Those last, 120 pages that I just read right now were so intense. I really do love the way that this author wrapped up the ending of this book. I think the last 250 pages or so of this book were my favorite part of this whole book. I think my biggest critiques with this one is mainly just the pacing and that it took a long time for things to really pick up. I feel like this book really suffers from being too long, because I do feel like the pacing at times, especially towards the middle, it would just start to slow down so much, and I was like, can we just get to the point a little bit faster? But once we did get to the point, oh my gosh, there were some truly horrific scenes. There were some really creepy things happening. I did see a few of my friends on Goodreads comparing this book to Midnight Mass, the Mike Flanagan show, and I can totally see the similarities, especially as we were getting closer to the ending of this book. I was like, oh my gosh, the Midnight Mass vibes were very strong, and that was making me so happy because Midnight Mass is one of my all-time favorite shows. I also do see a lot of people comparing this author to Stephen King and saying how a lot of his books feel very inspired by Stephen King, or just kind of written in a similar way. His writing in general definitely reminds me a lot of Stephen King, but I also just appreciate the originality with this story, and I feel like this author especially, I felt the same way about the Book of Accidents. I actually pulled it off my shelf because I was curious to see this one. This one was only a little bit over 500 pages, so this one was about 100 pages shorter than Black River Orchard, and I feel like Black River Orchard could have been cut down by at least 100 pages and it still would have been the same story. But I also feel like the Book of Accidents, it ended up being, one of my favorite horror books when I read it in 2021, and I feel the same, that this one was very unique, and I've never really read a horror book quite like this, and it's one that has really stuck with me through the years, and it's stayed on my mind quite a bit, and I feel like this one is gonna have that same impact on me, because now I feel like whenever I see a freaking apple, I'm just gonna think about this book. This book is gonna be the first thing that comes to my mind. I also really appreciate, he does a really long author's note at the end of this book, kind of talking about the inspiration for this and what inspired him to write this book in the first place, and it's so funny to me that, Rachel and Obed just went to an apple picking farm today and brought home a bunch of different kinds of apples. So now I'm kind of damn, maybe I should go around and try all these different kinds of apples to see what he's talking about, Especially because I live in Washington State, and Washington State is known for apples. So I just feel like this is an opportunity that I can't pass up. But overall, I'm so glad that I decided to read this one this month and that it ended up being an enjoyable time. I do think, as far as my rating goes, I'm thinking this one's probably gonna fall somewhere between a 3.5 to a 4 star, just because of some of my issues with the pacing and some of that. But at the same time, I don't know, I feel like I mostly have positive things to say about this, and I feel like I'll look back on this book and mostly have positive feelings about it. So I do think a 4 star feels more accurate for me. That's the thing though, is that I don't know if I like this one more than the Book of Accidents. I feel like I'll have to sit on it and think about that one for a while, because I do think I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well when I read it. I'm just so curious, to see what Chuck Wendig ends up doing next, because I do think a lot of his ideas for his horror books like this are just so unique and so original. Hello, how's it going? I wanted to update you because I have started on Mr. Magic. I'm currently doing some reading sprints right now with my Patreon, and I've just barely made a dent in this, okay? I'm only 64 pages in, so I don't really know too much about what's going on yet. But I wanted to update you because I started listening to this one on audio because I got the audiobook checked out from my library, and I was so excited because I realized that my girl, Rebecca Lohman, she's the one who's narrating this audiobook, because she's the one who narrates The Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. She's the one who narrates that audiobook, and that is one of my favorite audiobooks, and the voice of Kath is just so ingrained in my brain because I've reread Fangirl so many times, and so I'm so comforted by this girl's voice. I know that's so weird to say, but like she's literally one of my favorite audiobook narrators, so I got very excited when I realized that she narrates the Mr. Magic audiobook. Like, what? Very cool. But anyways, so I have started on Mr. Magic. All I really know about this is that it's about this TV show that was like really big back in the day. Between like the 1950s and the 1990s, there was this really big, well-known kids show that was called Mr. Magic. And then in the early 90s, the show ended up getting shut down because of some kind of tragedy. Like, I don't really understand like what happened. It was super vaguely described. I don't think we're supposed to know. And now it takes place 30 years later when we're following this woman who works at this like horse farm or like a horse camp. I don't really know. But right at the beginning of this book, her dad dies. And then while she's at the funeral, she's approached by these people who are like, hey, we're your castmates, so good to see you, like you were on the show when you were a kid. And she has no memory about any of this, which is something that I think is kind of confusing. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, she doesn't remember that she was even on the show to begin with. Like, on the inside flap here, it says there's no surviving video of the show, no evidence of who directed or produced it, and no records of who or what the beloved host actually was. Because there's all this talk about whether Mr. Magic was actually like a real person or not. I don't know, it's so weird. It's kind of confusing. Like, I don't understand how there's no evidence that the show even existed in the first place, and yet it still has this really big, large cult following. Like, it has like a lot of fans that are constantly asking for a reboot or for the show to come back. And so now 30 years later, they're gonna have a reunion for the show. And so they're asking all these cast members to come back to the original set and all this stuff. I just read this one part because there's parts like in between the chapters that are just like emails or like news articles or like stuff that I'm guessing is like from the fans of the show. And there was like an email that I just read. They said, did we all collectively dream the show? How does everyone remember something that for all intents and purposes never existed? They said, I can still sing the theme song when I'm picking out my clothes. Why can I not find any episode listings or descriptions? Why do I feel like I made this whole thing up? Huh? I'm just genuinely so confused. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm gonna continue listening to this one on audio. Hey, hi, it's the next day and I wanted to film a quick update because I have kind of changed gears 122 pages into this book, and I'm sadly going to DNF this book because I just don't care. And it's weird, you know, because I did mention how I was enjoying this story a bit more than Hyde at the beginning of this, and Hyde is a book that I finished and I gave it 1 star, and I don't know, now that I'm 120 pages into this book, I don't find myself wanting to pick it back up and read. Like, I don't care where the story's going. I think this book has mostly been kind of confusing for me so far, and I feel like this author is doing the same thing again, where these characters are reading a lot younger than I think that they should be. Because this reunion is taking place 30 years later, and like, I know that these people were kids when they were on this kid show, but like, still, these people are not reading like they're in their 30s or their 40s, and I just think it's so strange. And I don't know, I'm mostly just finding this book to be kind of confusing, to be honest, and I'm not that invested enough that like, I don't care where the story's going. Like, I don't care about Mr. Magic, I don't care about the mystery of it, and I've heard from so many people that have finished this book that the ending is kind of like confusing and doesn't make sense, and it's like really long and drawn out. And so I'm like, if that's the direction that we're headed, then like, I just don't care. So sadly, I think I'm gonna end up DNFing this one, but I did want to update you because this morning I have started on Night's Edge, which this is a book that it was not originally on my TBR this month. I actually just checked this out of the library recently because my sister, after doing this try a chapter video that I did with my sister, I had Rachel read the first chapter of this. She loved it so much, like it was her favorite first chapter that she read, and after she talked so highly about that first chapter, it just really had me curious, you know, to want to check this one out. I know that my friend Savannah also had this as a book club pick, I think earlier this year, and if I remember correctly, almost everyone on her book club really enjoyed this one. So I've been really curious to pick it up ever since that as well, and this one is really interesting because it has vampire vibes in this story. We're following this girl named Mia, and it's interesting because we follow this character in 2 alternate timelines. In one of the timelines, it takes place in 2010, and I want to say she's like 10 years old in 2010, like she's a kid. And then in the alternate timeline, it takes place in the present day in 2023 when she's 23 years old. And we kind of follow her story as she's dealing with the fact that her mom is like a vampire, but they don't really call her a vampire. They call her a Sara, I think is how you say it, a Sara. It's like S-A-R-A. And it's like interesting because they live in a society where like public knows that vampires exist, but they like lock them up in these like asylums or something like that when the vampires get caught, so they like have to live in secret. And so we kind of follow her as, you know, she's been struggling her whole life to keep this secret that her mother's this vampire. Why are there so many planes today? Now there's a FedEx truck right outside the window because of course. It's only when I'm trying to film right in front of my window that there's so much activity outside. It's very annoying. But anyways, it's funny how there's so many rules to this like blood safety, you know, because the blood that she's drinking has to be fresh. They said you can't freeze, you know, the blood that you drink because then it might erode your esophagus. And then I also like how they said animal blood can also cause a lot of issues. They said, this one guy said that drinking blood from a rabbit can give you the most painful IBS of your life. It says if you want to survive, you need to consume a minimum of 4 ounces a day. And if you skip a day, it's the same as someone going without water. After 3 days, your body starts shutting down. The thing that I find incredibly disturbing about this is how she is, like this daughter, Mia, she is her mom's like main supply of blood. And she's always just like pricking herself with the needles and just like giving her blood to her mom for her to survive. It's so disgusting. Like I'm the kind of person that gets really queasy when I think about like blood and things like that, and like that is so disgusting. But I'm really liking the story so far. I like how we're jumping back and forth between like 2010 and the present day, and we kind of get to see her childhood. I think she has a really complicated but also really interesting relationship with her mother. And then I also love in the present day, there's this girl named Jade who's a musician that Mia's really drawn to, and like I had no idea this was gonna be queer, but like I'm already kind of like invested in like whatever's going on with Mia and Jade. I just think that they're so cute. I love a queer vampire story. Like what the heck, let's go. I was really confused though when I started this because for some reason I thought when I started this that the protagonist was the one who is going to be the vampire, not her mom. So now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, like where's this going? So I don't know, this one's only 275 pages. I'm already 78 pages in, so I feel like I'm already making a small dent in it. I don't think it'll take me too long to finish this, and I don't know, so far I'm really liking the writing style. I think it's really easy to get into, and I'm just so curious to see where this story ends up going.
That pain inside, don't wanna feel it. Yeah. So I pour up inside my cup and I just sip till I can't feel it. Ooh. I know it won't solve my problem, but I know it makes a difference. One more sip and I'ma fix it.
Oh, okay, be careful. Hi. Oh my god.
Get out of the way, so you know. I'll get right over.
Sure.
Thank you.
Whoa, this vibes.
I put on a.
Oh, nice. A lot. Caramel apple wrap.
Eyes that I gave you.
It looks so
We can melt these a little bit.
What the hell?
We'll melt these.
It's not gonna work right, but.
Are you kidding me? That looks perfect.
This looks perfect.
Yeah, but you could cover the outside.
Look how ruffles. It doesn't like
It
this
doesn't
dirt.
matter. Like you're gonna cover the outside, so that line, you won't be there.
What do you mean
You
cover the
gonna like
outside?
that?
Oh,
You're only
nuts.
putting caramel?
I don't know. Well, not now, I guess, because it looks weird.
When you warm the stuff, it's gonna make a difference.
Will
Like
it?
I've never done this. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. I don't know.
Following directions kind of helps.
We don't know.
Mm-mm.
We're just gonna freaking wing it.
Yeah, why not? Here.
Love little turns.
Yeah. And then pour it on there. Whatever. Get squish it down.
It's
There you go.
working.
See?
But you gotta do the bottom too. There you go. Scroll, scroll.
This looks terrible. This looks like a child made this.
A child did make it. What's on top?
I made it kind of.
It needs to be a little warmer to keep it.
It's already been in the oven too long.
Those are cute, right?
They're so
Making them
cute.
from salad.
Or
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 You can get him to have your mom's attention and be like, Mom, look at me.
You got it.
Look at me. Like that.
Wow.
You're funny, babe.
Or for you.
Mom's like, you're funny, not.
You're
You
funny.
want a little scratch on this? It's some
Hilarious.
ASMR.
Hilarious.
Some ASMR. You want a little head scratch?
How do you make an apple with some white chocolate drizzle on it?
Okay, we're gonna do white chocolate. That's what we got.
Gabby,
Excuse me?
do it.
We're making What are you saying, Mom?
Okay, this is.
I got a stick. He's gonna get lost in there.
No, it's done.
Okay, and then set it
I
down.
don't know how the white chocolate's doing. It doesn't seem like it's thinning down. Go.
So cute.
What you'll need more of.
White chocolate.
And you can probably even make
Yeah.
those yourself and make them bigger. That's what you can do with the
We tried.
change it up a little bit.
Beautiful dinner. Amazing. Hello, I wanted to do an update because I am home from going over to my parents' house. We had a really fun afternoon because we were making some caramel apples. It was cool because my mom found these like caramel wraps that you essentially just like wrap over the apple and then you put the apple in the oven. I don't know, they didn't turn out exactly how I was expecting them to. Like they were fine, but it was still really fun to go over to my parents' house. We ended up having a nice dinner over there, and ever since getting home I've been finishing up Knight's Edge, and I just finished it like 20 minutes ago. I've been sitting here trying to process everything because this ending was a lot. Oh my gosh. And so right after finishing this book, I had to pull up, you know, my friend Savannah, she had a live show discussion for this book earlier this summer, and I had only seen the beginning of the live show because I wanted to see what everybody rated the book, and everyone in the live show rated it super high. And so that's what had me like invested in it, but I wanted to hear everybody's like spoilery thoughts on this because the ending of this book was crazy, and I just had to hear everybody's take on it. And I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I did. Like, I really enjoyed this one. I feel like this is more of a character study. It's a little bit more of a slow burn. At least for me, the action didn't pick up until like that last, you know, the last maybe like 30-40 pages of the book. I was actually looking when I had about 50 pages left, and I was like, gosh, it's so weird. Like, it doesn't really feel like the story's like coming to an end anytime soon. Like, it just kind of felt still like a slow burn, just kind of like an exploration of this mother-daughter relationship that just felt very toxic and very codependent. And then we also just get, you know, this sapphic romance that's happening between our protagonist Mia and this girl Jade that she's really into. I don't know, I was really invested in, you know, not only the characters Mia and Jade and like her mom, like the situation with her mom. I was so invested. You know, for somebody who I do tend to get a little bit squeamish when it comes to like descriptive things with vampires, with like the sucking of blood and all that. And even though this book was gory, like it was definitely gory, and there were some scenes that I was like, oh god, like especially towards the end, like they were brutally described and it was kind of disgusting. But for the most part, I feel like this story was more about the characters and their relationships, and so it wasn't like the most squeamish I've ever felt during a vampire book, which I actually really liked. During the live show too, Riley also mentioned that she would have liked getting the mom's point of view in this book, which I definitely agree with. I think getting the mom's point of view in this book would have been really cool, because we do only follow from Mia's point of view in this book, but we do follow her when she's like a 10-year-old kid, and we go back and forth to when she's like 23, so we do get two altering, you know, timelines going back and forth. But I feel like this book could have been even better if we had gotten Mia's mom's point of view at times, because, you know, her whole situation is very interesting as well, and I feel like her character was so well fleshed out and so interesting that I would have liked to get into her head at sometimes. Yeah, I don't know, I loved this. Like, the ending of this book was absolute chaos. Like, I had my fucking hand like covering my mouth, just being like, oh shit, like shit was really hitting the fan at the end. And I also didn't realize that this was gonna be the first book in a series. And so I'm kind of like, because the way that this book ended, I feel like it perfectly set up for a second book. And now I'm like, well, now I need to know what happens, and I will definitely be reading that second book. And so I think I'm probably going to give this one a 4-star, maybe even a 4.5 star. I feel like the more that I sit on this, the more that I'm going to you know, want to praise it and speak so highly of it. And I just loved it so much. I loved it. I think this is going to be one of those books that are like super underrated because I haven't heard too many people talking about this one. That's so exciting. I'm so glad that I have another horror book that I loved and that I can highly recommend. Like, amazing. Hello, it has been about a week since the last time that I updated this vlog. In the last week, I've done a lot of very exciting things. Like I went out to the movie theater and I saw the Eras tour, the Taylor Swift concert movie that came to theaters. I ended up seeing it 2 different times. I saw it with my mom and my sister, and then I ended up traveling down south to go meet up with my friend Brittany, and I went and saw it again with her. And honestly, I just want to go back and watch it again because it was so amazing and so incredible, and I cried so many times because I'm just so proud of Taylor Swift. Like I've loved her for so long, for like my whole life, you know, and it's so crazy to see how far she's come in her career. And like I could go on all day, but it was amazing. And today is Monday. I'm actually having kind of like a sick day in bed. I'm so annoyed with my body because I feel like ever since getting home from Japan, you know, which I came home around like September 8th, 9th, ever since then I've been like on and off sick for like over a month now, and it's just really frustrating, and I'm just tired of feeling really shitty. I keep taking like COVID tests regularly and it's not COVID. I don't know what's going on with my body, but I'm sick again, or I'm feeling sick again, so I'm trying to have a chill day relaxing in bed. I'm actually doing reading sprints with my friend Jessie right now, and I wanted to update you because I have started on Stars in Your Eyes, which is a new romance that's written by Cason Callender, and Cason Callender is the author of Felix Ever After, which is like one of my favorite books of all time. And so I've been really looking forward to this romance book. Like this is probably my most anticipated romance book of, you know, this second half of the year. So I'm so excited to be starting on this one. And right now I'm about 118 pages into it. I've been using my cute little deer bookmark that I got in Japan, and I'm just obsessed. But anyways, I've been really liking this one because in this story, it's a male-male romance, and we're following these 2 actors. One of them, his name is Logan, and the other one is Maddie. And Logan has been kind of known to be kind of like a bad boy in Hollywood. Like he just doesn't have a really good reputation. He's bisexual, and he recently cheated on his girlfriend, but it was kind of like, it was like a fake public relationship anyways, but it just doesn't look very good for him, you know, because it makes it look like he's a cheater. And so they're both going to be cast in this queer rom-com movie where they're going to be playing love interests, but people are afraid that the movie isn't going to do well if this guy Logan has like a really bad reputation. So they ask Logan and this other guy Maddie if they can fake date so that the movie gets more buzz. And so they decide that they're gonna fake date to create more buzz for their movie. And, you know, Logan is the typical kind of like moody bad boy. Like he's giving all of those vibes, which I actually don't mind. I think he's a really interesting character so far. And then the character Maddie, he is like America's angel. Like he's currently blowing up as an actor, but he also is dealing with a lot of insecurities on his own. You know, like he's not very comfortable with being gay. Like he feels very ashamed still for being gay because of, you know, things that he's gone through with his family. And so both of them have been really interesting characters to follow so far. I also am loving the audiobook, by the way. Do you see how many names are listed on the narrators for this audiobook? Like it's really cool because not only do we get the 2 different male narrators doing the voice of each one of these guys, but also in between their perspective chapters, we will also get like random chapters that are kind of like news articles or like their upcoming project schedule or like a bunch of different things like that. They even have some chapters that are Archive of Our Own, which is like the fan fiction website, you know, and it'll show like fan fiction that a fan has written about these 2 actors, which I just think is like absolutely hilarious, and I like love that this author included that. I don't know, I mean, I'm still early on in the book, you know, but the chemistry, like they already have really cute chemistry, so I'm just gonna continue listening to this. I'm still doing one last sprint with Jessie right now. I don't know if you can hear the rain outside behind this window, but it has been dumping rain this morning, and it's been honestly kind of incredible. Like it is the October vibes today. And then after I finish up doing these sprints with Jessie, I'm probably gonna make a quick dinner. I might just make like my pasta Alfredo, you know, broccoli chicken dinner that I like to make. And then me and my sister might watch more of The Fall of the House of Usher tonight. Saying we're gonna watch The Fall of the House of Usher later.
Yeah, it's raining really hard right now.
Yeah, it's raining so hard. It's getting in my room.
Another night, I fall in your sight. Your new eyes cut sharp like a knife. Take a moment and look all around you. I don't want you caught off guard or alarmed when I come for you. I need you to know that I would never walk away. I know what you need, I would bleed for you, but you're taking somebody home. I know I need to move on.
Hello, it is just after 11 o'clock at night, but I wanted to update because I just finished Stars in Your Eyes. Dude, the ending of this book almost had me cry 2 separate times. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting this book to be as emotional and hard-hitting of a romance as it was, because I feel like at the start, you know, this book really had those like romantic comedy vibes, you know, like it was a fun like fake dating kind of setup between these 2 actors. But this book, I feel like especially in the second half, it just really kicks it into gear with like the emotional things. I know that this author did put a content warning at the beginning of this book. And you know, this author does say there are some trigger warnings like childhood sexual abuse, sexual assault, bullying and harassment online, suicidal thoughts, homophobia and biphobia, parental rejection and verbal abuse, and mentions of potential overdose. And I think something that I found really difficult to read about this book was obviously like the suicidal thoughts and also feeling rejected by your parent and feeling like you're not good enough just because of your sexuality. I think those things just hit me so hard, and these 2, especially Logan, he has such a difficult time with like he's had a really difficult past and he's been through a lot of different trauma, and because of that he gets scared to like open himself up and to like be vulnerable and to be in a real relationship. And I just feel like because of those things he just felt like such a real character. Like I don't know, both of them just felt so genuine and so real, and I loved their story even though it was not easy for me to read this at times. Like it was just so emotional. I ended up tabbing a bunch of different moments because I just loved their chemistry that they had with each other, but I also appreciate not just the romance that they had with each other, but the way that they made each other feel about themselves. You know, because I love how this book points out the fact that you can't love someone else until you love yourself, and how important it is to love yourself and not feel ashamed of who you are. It was just so beautiful, and I feel like I'm going to be thinking about these characters for a long time. I also really love the way that this book ended. I feel like it really took its time with the ending, if that makes sense, because I feel like sometimes romance books, they'll just have like conflict resolution and then the book ends, you know? But I feel like with this book, the conflict felt very realistic for me in like the 3rd act of this book. I felt like it felt like a really real situation that people deal with when they deal with such trauma in their lives. I really like the way that this author just like took their time with that ending, and it felt very realistic to me in that way. But the way that these characters just really make each other happy at the end of the day, I think is something that's really beautiful. I also, you know, I just love reading about you know, actors and like the film industry and reading like behind the scenes of like, you know, a fake relationship and a PR relationship and how they have to deal with the media and how people are just so obsessed with like dissecting every little aspect of their lives. Gosh, I feel like this might have been 5 stars for me, which is just crazy to say because it's so exciting when one of your like most anticipated books of the year actually lives up to all of the hype that you made for it in your head. I just don't think I really have anything negative to say about it, and I just feel so much for these characters, and the fact that I almost cried, I mean, it's gotta be 5 stars for me. So that's always amazing. And you know what else is amazing is the fact that we watched 2 more episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher tonight. Now we've watched 4 episodes total, and now at this point, like, I am absolutely obsessed with this show. Like, I think it's so freaking good. It might be one of my like top favorite shows from Mike Flanagan. I'm just obsessed with it. Like, I love the characters, I love the writing. Like, the writing is genuinely so funny, but also just like so clever and so smart, and like the attention to detail. And I also just love the characters. I feel like he does the characterization so well in these shows, and each character is just such a standout, you know, like they're all really great characters, and I'm just so invested. Like, I just really want to see where the story's going, so I'm absolutely loving The Fall of the House of Usher. I think it's so great.
Small city thinking, I get why you left. Small-minded people sure know how to drink. I came to the party, I laughed at the jokes you made. I wish that I hadn't, 'cause now the joke's on me. I didn't come here just so I could watch you make a mess. I didn't come here to ugly cry in my favorite dress. So what the hell were you thinking then when you kissed your lips? Now I'm kinda glad you did, 'cause now you adore me, adore me. Go ahead now, adore me.
Oh, hello. I wanted to update you because I have started on My Roommate is a Vampire, and I'm now about 140 pages into this book. I've just been sitting here almost all this afternoon reading this, and this is one that I have been very curious about because I've been hearing so many people talking about this. So in this story, we're following this young girl named Cassie, and she's living in Chicago. She's working a few different jobs, and she is pretty poor. You know, like, she's not doing so good on the money side of things, and she has this really close childhood best friend named Sam, who he's gay and he recently got married to his husband, and she's gonna be getting kicked out of her apartment pretty soon because she hasn't been paying rent, and so she needs a quick solution. And her friend Sam, he finds this ad on Craigslist that's basically saying that this guy Frederick, he's saying that he needs a roommate and that the rent for the room is only going to be $200 a month, and it's going to be like in Chicago where she needs to be. And so she's like, what the heck, that's weird. So she like starts emailing the guy and she goes to see the apartment, and you know, of course, there's just like red flag after red flag with this guy, but our protagonist is just like, well, I need an apartment and like it's so cheap I can't pass it up, which like in some ways I do understand, but also I'm like, damn girl, okay. He'll be like, you know, he'll say like, oh, well, I am out all night and then I need to sleep during the day. So like their schedules are going to work where they're not really going to be seeing each other very often, which is a nice thing. But it's also like, he'll be like, yeah, well, I like to keep all the blinds closed. Like all the windows need to be shut during the day because like I don't enjoy the sunlight, whatever, which is like, it's fine. But like, I don't know, he's just being kind of weird and creepy. And the way that he talks sounds like very old fashioned, you know? And there's just a lot of things about his character that me personally would definitely like give me red flags and be like, I don't know if I can be here, you know, like I don't know if we can do this. But for her, she's like, well, I need to be here and like I need a place to live, which like I understand, but I'm also just like, girl, because she's immediately just like, oh my god, I wasn't expecting for him to be so like young and attractive and he looks like a Greek god. I don't know, I'm not really like feeling their chemistry a lot so far at the beginning of this because I feel like we don't really know too much about either of their characters besides the fact that she is an artist and she makes art, and the fact that he is a vampire, you know, but she doesn't really know that yet. It just seems very obvious to me that something would be going on with this guy, and I guess it was a little bit annoying at the beginning how oblivious the main character seemed to all of these things. Like she would just be like, oh, well, that's kind of weird, but like, whatever. But I do enjoy the roommates to lovers trope. Like that's one of my favorite trope. I love when they were roommates. And so I'm liking too how they are communicating via like written letters that they're like leaving on the kitchen counter and stuff for each other, because since their schedules are so different, you know, like he pretty much sleeps all day and then he's out all night, and then she, you know, works all day, sleeps at night. So I like that because they're not able to see each other like face to face a lot. I like how they're communicating by like leaving written letters to each other. I just think that's really cute. I also think there's a really funny side character that's Frederick's friend that he keeps texting to be like, oh, is this like a normal thing to say? And it's really interesting because I like how the story is told from only Cassie's point of view. It's written in first person and we get Cassie's point of view. But then I also like how the only way we get inside of his head is through his text messages to his friend. So it's interesting because it feels like in a way we kind of do get Frederick's point of view sometimes, but it's only through text messages that he's sending to his friend. But it's cool because it kind of gives us an idea of like where he's at mentally or like what he's thinking about situations, and it's just really funny. So far it's been interesting. I just feel like for me, the writing feels a little bit like basic so far. Like there's definitely been a few moments that have been kind of funny, but also I'm just not feeling the chemistry with these two, I guess, as much as I was wanting to. And I think part of the reason is because, you know, Frederick's character just really seems like an old man with the way that he talks. Like, I know that he's not. I mean, I know that he technically is, you know, because he's a vampire, so he's like hundreds of years old. But like the way he's speaking, it just makes him sound like he's like an elderly man. So like it's hard for me to picture like a young, you know, like attractive 30-year-old man as this guy, because the way he's talking is just so like an elderly man. So maybe that has partially something to do with why I'm like not really feeling the chemistry between them so far. But like the night is still young, you know, like we still got a lot of time left, and so I'm hopeful that I will still end up enjoying this. I mean, so far it's feeling like a 3-star for me. Like, I don't know, I'm not obsessed, but I do tend to love the trope of like a fish out of water, you know, like somebody who doesn't really understand society norms, and, you know, somebody kind of like teaching someone else about the way that the world works. Like, I do tend to love that trope, and so I'm hoping as that starts to come a little bit more into play throughout the story, I'm hoping that it'll make me love the story even more. Anyways, it's now getting to be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and tonight I'm really excited because I'm gonna be doing another troop talk with my sister over on my Patreon, and these troop talks are basically just like Patreon live shows that I do once a month with my sister, where we just kind of like hang out and talk and chat and catch up, and they're usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. But this one, because it's the month of October, it's going to be a very special troop talk, because tonight we're going to be dressing up in costumes and we're gonna be baking like a fall treat together. So I had my Patreon vote on which fall treat they wanted to bake together tonight, and this recipe that's like these pumpkin bars with these cream cheese frosting ended up winning. And so we're gonna be making that, which I'm excited because I've never made it before. And so that should be exciting. And then I'm also so excited because I finally get to wear the costume that I got from Spirit Halloween. I'm so excited to see my Patreon's reaction to the outfit because it's going to be like based off of the movie Barbie. So it should be a fun time. So let's go put on the costume. So this is what the outfit looks like. It's the pink power jumpsuit from Barbie. And it also includes the glasses and the headband. So like, okay, so what do we think? Are we in love? This headband is kind of weird because I don't know if it's supposed to be like centered on my head, but I feel like that looks kind of weird. So I feel like I'll do it just a little bit off center. And then my pink glasses. Isn't it cute? I also had to like roll up the pants at the bottom here because they're like a little bit long on me. But like, isn't this cute? You think people will be surprised on my Patreon that I went with Barbie? Because I feel like my sister, you know, she's dressing as Donnie Darko, so she's gonna be like very dark and moody, and I'm gonna be very pink and bright and Barbie, which is funny, you know, because when we went to the Taylor Swift Eras concert, she dressed like Lover and I dressed like Reputation, and now it's like we've completely switched vibes. This is amazing, actually. It's so good.
You can see the steam.
I know, it's so hot. Like,
This honestly feels like fall dessert cornbread right now. Yeah.
Oh, it's really hot. Oh my god. Literally just came out of the oven right into my mouth. I know. Mom's literally like, I'm on the way over. Oh, please share because I've almost cried over how many times I've tried to make cookies. Yeah, you'll have to send me the recipe.
Girl, I got the best recipe of all
I'll
time.
post it in the Discord tonight. Hello, it is the next day. It's the next afternoon, actually. Last night, I was going to pick up My Roommate is a Vampire after I was laying down in bed, but I don't know why, I just didn't feel motivated to read this book at the end of the night last night, so I didn't end up reading anything last night. But we did watch more of The Fall of the House of Usher, the TV show that we're obsessed with. We only have 2 episodes left now, and I am just absolutely obsessed with that show. Like, it is going very well. I can't wait to finish it later tonight. This morning, I ended up going out to breakfast with my mom, and then after I came home, I was sitting at my desk and I ended up finishing the rest of My Roommate is a Vampire, and I'm feeling very, like, meh about this book, which makes me so sad because I really wanted to love this. I think this book starts off fun enough, you know, I think it has a really interesting premise. I like the idea of like a young girl trying to help a vampire like understand the modern day world. I don't know, the romance in this book just didn't really do it for me, and at the end of the day, like, this is a romance book, you know, and I expect to be like really into the couple and to be shipping it, but I wasn't really feeling that way. Like, I think they're both kind of like funny and unique as individual characters, and I liked a lot of the scenes of like her trying to like help him understand some of the world, but at the same time, I don't know, his mindset just kind of drove me fucking nuts. Like, he drove me nuts as a character, and it's like, I get it, you know, like, this guy is a vampire, he's very out of touch with the modern world, but some of the things he would say to her, I'm like, this is not okay, and like, this is not attractive. Like, he'll just make those kind of comments where he's like, you're just so much more beautiful without makeup and you don't need makeup, and it's like, when will men fucking realize that we're not wearing makeup for them? Like, we wear it for ourselves. And like, yeah, it's nice, I guess, to say that somebody looks better without makeup or that they don't need it, but like, to imply that like, oh, you don't need it, like, I'm not wearing it for you, thanks sir, I didn't ask. And also, you know, like, he just like, there'll be scenes where she'll post like pictures of herself in like a bikini or something on social media, and he'll just get absolutely pissed with like rage and jealousy that like other men can like see her so much skin. Bro, oh my gosh, it's just, there's something about that old-fashioned mindset that just drives me absolutely crazy. Like, I don't think that that's like attractive that he's so jealous. Like, no, that's annoying, that is child behavior. Like, she is a grown-ass adult, she can do whatever the fuck she wants. And so I guess my main issue with like shipping the romance in this book was just that he was driving me absolutely nuts, and I didn't really like him as a love interest. Like, I wasn't rooting for their relationship because I didn't like him. And I also think the ending, like the conflict at the ending, just got a little bit like ridiculous in my opinion. Like, it was just not as fun anymore. It was just like a little bit over the top, but in a more ridiculous way that I didn't enjoy. But I will say that this book gets extra points because it mentions Taylor Swift. There was like a really great conversation about Taylor Swift in her 1989 era. And then I also love that this book mentioned K-dramas too, and he specifically mentioned Crash Landing on You, which I'm like, god damn it, I need to see that show. Like, everybody talks about that show when it comes to K-dramas, and I've only seen the first 2 episodes, like, I just never got into it. So I feel like I need to see Crash Landing on You, but because this book mentioned K-dramas and Taylor Swift and it was like fun, you know, like, I think it gets bonus points for that. I don't know what to rate this one because, you know, I do think it's a fun time, and like, maybe I'm just being too cynical or too critical when it comes to like what I personally like in romance, and when it comes to love interests. Like, this guy is not my ideal love interest, and I think that had a huge part in my lack of enjoyment for this book. But at the same time, I do think it was funny, it was a light, like, quick read. It was kind of what I was looking for the month of October with like the vampire vibes. It just had that touch of like a paranormal feel to it. Overall, it was fine. I think I'm gonna give this somewhere between like 2.5 and 3 stars. I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it the way that I thought that I would. But I think overall this was a very successful reading vlog, don't you think? I mean, I definitely found some new all-time favorite books, you know, during this reading vlog, and I think that's a win for me, especially during a reading vlog like this that's kind of like unplanned, and I just kind of like pick up anything that sounds interesting. I didn't imagine that it would go this well, so I'm so glad that I ended up finding some new favorites, and I read a lot of books that I really enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts on them in the comments, or if I've encouraged you to check out any of these books, I would love to know that as well. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!